Today our guest on Let's Talk is Angela Sparks, and Angela is the Deputy Director of Legacy Landfill and Craighead County Solid Waste. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us, now Legacy Landfill is on Highway 1 south of Jonesboro, and I'm sure anybody who's driven that way notices because you got a mountain, right?
Yes, I call it Mount Trashmore.
Mount Trashmore. And it is it's a vital mountain for Jonesboro and Craighead County because you cover up all our waste.
We were incorporated in 1985, and we've been burying waste since the end of 1990. But a lot of people didn't realize that we were out there at the time because we had offices off of Strawfloor Drive that was by where the city of Jonesboro had a Class 4 facility. We're a permitted Class 1 facility, which means that we can take waste that's putrescible or that can decay, food scraps, clothing, things like that.
Now, I know on first blush your thought is, who cares where your trash goes? That's important. It is important. And can you tell us who takes their trash out to Legacy and why it's important that you're there?
Residents, businesses, industries in Craighead County all utilize Legacy Landfill. There is Craighead County flow control ordinance in place by the Quorum Court that says all waste generated inside Craighead County is to be disposed of in Craighead County, with the exception of items taken for recycling. And this is a good thing for residents of Craighead County because if you had to transport the solid waste a long way, it would be more expensive. You'd have fuel cost, driver cost, more wear and tear on your equipment, and so it's good that we have permitted landfill here in the Craighead County.
What are the costs of the landfill? Now, I know the city has no sanitation fees. People say it's made up elsewhere. Well, it's not quite that simple.
Right.
But it's there is a cost to use the landfill.
Yes. What people don't realize is City of Jonesboro residents, when they come to the landfill with things other than construction material, we don't actually charge the Jonesboro resident. We charge the City of Jonesboro, who pays out of their general funds collected through sales tax. So there is a fee associated with all the dumping. Nothing's free, as they say.
Right.
But if you live outside the City of Jonesboro, or if you're a business, or if you're a resident of the City of Jonesboro with construction material, then you pay what we call the tipping fee, which some people relate to as being a scale house fee. And it's determined by the weight of what you bring. So if you bring less than 600 pounds, our minimum charge is $12.37, and that includes sales tax for up to 600 pounds. If it's 600 pounds and over, it's prorated at $38.75 a ton plus sales tax if applicable. That $38.75 includes $2.50 that we have to pay to the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality, and a 50-cent assessment fee by the Craighead County Regional Solid Waste Management District to help with recycling programs, since funding has been decreasing.
Angela, what do people typically bring? Like, what do I know if I want to get rid of out of my house? What makes me say I need to take this to Legacy? Okay,
well, it's easier to say what not to bring. Under Regulation 22, which is the state regulation that governs landfills, we cannot put grass, leaves, shrubbery trimmings in the landfill. We also cannot take large quantities of liquids and put those in the landfills. Tires, while they're not allowed in the landfill, we do take tires at the landfill for disposal. And residents and businesses can bring small and large tires at no charge, but The extra large tires, all businesses pay to dispose of those at $32 each, and residents can bring 4 extra large tires per month at no charge, and then we have to charge for over 4, but only for the extra large tires.
Okay. And if somebody has an old chair or something, they can put that on the side of the road. The city picks that stuff up occasionally, or do they need to bring it out there?
The city of Jonesboro no longer picks that stuff up. The residents should bring that to the landfill themselves. And like I said, if it's a resident of the city of Jonesboro, there's no charge for regular household waste or clothes or furniture, only construction material like lumber, shingle, sheetrock, bricks, block, concrete. There's no charge, so it's really easy. We're open 8 to 4 Monday through Friday and 8 till noon on Saturday, so we have some convenient hours no matter what shift you work.
Right. Now, what about the recycling? Does recycling go through you guys?
The district issues grants to 7 of the 10 cities in Craighead County to help them with their recycling programs. What we actually recycle at the landfill are lead acid batteries, which is like car batteries, tires, electronics, things like that. Other recycling can go, there's several recycling centers in Craighead County, especially around Jonesboro.
Right.
Abilities Unlimited, and speaking of recycling, I'll back up just a minute. A lot of people think that glass can no longer be recycled. It can be recycled even through the city of Jonesboro, but not in the recycling bins.
Correct.
The glass needs to be taken directly to the recycling center, which is Abilities Unlimited at 806 Burke Street. They'll take the recycling from residents and businesses. That it's just not picked up.
Now, does the place down on Highway 1,
Echo Works?
Echo Works, they still take glass too, correct?
I'm not sure that they're still taking glass.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read all the publicity about the China market is no longer accepting recycling.
Right.
And they, because of that, on plastics, if you look in the recycling symbol on the bottom of the items, you'll see the numbers. Number 3 and above, there's, in our area at least, there's not much of a market for 3 and above right now. But the numbers 1 and 2, those are easily recycled, and Echo Works and Abilities Unlimited will both take all the number 1 and 2 plastics that you can come up with.
And the numbers that you're talking about are inside a little triangle, right?
With the recycling arrows, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Now, when we talk about 1 and 2, does that mean, obviously, a lot of paper does not come with recycling symbols, but paper can be recycled still?
Yes, paper can be recycled. If you put paper in your recycling bin, it would be good to put papers and newspapers, white office paper and newspapers, in like a clear bag, and put it in the recycling bins in a bag to keep them from being contaminated by the, if you have a tomato sauce can that has tomato sauce left in it, you don't want it on the recyclable paper. But yes, paper, newspapers, magazines, cardboard's easily recycled. Number 1 and number 2, plastics. There's many things that can be recycled.
Now, when your batteries run out of your remote control or your whatever, is it okay to throw those away? Is that a bad?
Actually, the Arkansas Regulation 22 does not prohibit putting electronics in the landfill. It's legal to do so, but it is preferable to recycle them. And so if you bring them to the landfill, we can get them to the recycling center.
Yeah. Now tell me some things. You talk about things that are prohibited, but what are the what's the most common thing that you see come through the gates that you say, well, this is not what you can do?
Mostly the liquid paint. People bring paint cans in, and paint can go into the landfill, but it has to be solidified. It cannot be free flowing. You have to mix dirt, sand, or kitty litter or something like that in it.
Okay.
And you can't just pop the top and let it dry, because what happens is the top of the paint hardens and it's still liquid underneath. And the fact is, paint and all the chemicals in the residential waste do not play well together, and we have to we're trying to prevent fires. Fires are fairly common at the landfill because a lot of chemicals don't play well together.
How big is the landfill?
We own about 600 acres. We have permitted for landfill use about 300 acres. We're still in the same 60-ish acres that we started with as far as burying. And people wonder why we have to charge, because a lot of people think that all you do is dig a hole and throw trash in it. And we are so regulated. And basically what you have to do to build the landfill is, you dig a hole, you have 2 feet of compacted clay, and then you have plastic liner that's welded together on the bottom, and then you have a leachate collection system. Now, leachate is what we call garbage juice. It's liquid that is passed through the waste mask, and it's a combination of rainwater, sodas, any kind of liquid that you might have, and so it has to be collected. So we have perforated pipes on top of the liner that guides the leachate into leachate holding tanks so that it doesn't contaminate the groundwater system. And then when each area that we developed is called a cell, and the cell is divided into units. And for instance, the last 12 acres that we lined and everything was over $2.5 million. And so that what we do is, while we're not a for-profit company, we have to have reserves to be able to pay the $2.5 million, and then about 2 years from then we have to pay about $2.5 million to close the cell or the unit, whatever we're closing. And you have to do the same thing on top as you do on the bottom. You still have to have the 2 feet of clay, you have to have the liner, you have to put vegetation and things like that. So we have to have $2.5 million every other year for opening and closing areas.
My goodness, right. Is there an end game for what the landfill's purpose is? Are we going to continue, say, 50 years down the road to build Mount Trashmore?
Mount Trashmore even bigger. Yeah. Well, I always say we don't handle trash disposal, waste disposal, the same way now as we did 50 years ago. So it's unrealistic to think that it'll be handled the same way 50 years from now. For one thing, all across the United States, there is a push for going green these days that we didn't have 50 years ago.
Right.
And there have been several laws passed, like where manufacturers reduce their packaging. A lot of the manufacturers are trying to go to zero waste, and so an example would be Matchbox cars. When I was little, they were in a Matchbox cars was in a little cardboard box, which was in a bigger cardboard box, which was in a bigger one with pictures all over it to get people's attention, and then you had to go through all that cardboard to get to the Matchbox cars.
Right.
Well, now they're in little plastic hangers hanging on a hook at the stores. So see, that's a way that waste has been reduced.
That's good. So that it's starting at the manufacturer level.
Oh, it is. There's a hierarchy of solid waste that's also called integrated solid waste management, And the first step of that is reduction, to reduce the amount of waste that's generated to begin with. And the second tier is recycling, to reuse or repurpose what has been created. The third level is combustion and or processing, and that's when you have incinerators that burn waste to energy. They create energy through the steam that's generated, or composting. So you turn into a totally another form that is a usable product. And the bottom of the tier, which is the worst thing on the hierarchy, is landfilling. But landfilling is the first thing people think about.
Right.
And it uses up valuable natural resources that can't be replenished. We're using up space. We're using up dirt to cover the waste. These are things that can't be regenerated.
What can people compost, and how would someone who doesn't know how to compost begin?
Google is, Google, YouTube, those are the easiest training things. Anything that's putrescible or that decays can be used in composting. Food scraps and are common. Leaves, or paper, things like that are good. You need to make sure and shred them to smaller pieces so it doesn't take you 3 years to, if you put a whole piece of paper in there, it's going to take longer. And you need to make sure to aerate or rotate, just take a shovel, turn it over, something like that, and give it time. And as the microorganisms eat away at whatever they're trying to compost, heat is generated. So you have to add air to keep fire from starting. And also you don't want to get it to be too wet, because then it sours and it also kills those microorganisms.
I see.
So, yeah. One thing you may not know is to work at a permitted solid waste facility, you have to have a state-issued solid waste operator's license. And we have apprentice, journeyman, and master, just like your plumbers and electricians, things like that.
Wow.
It is a very regulated business that people don't realize when they come and want to dump something, and we say that, I'm sorry, we can't take that. We're just trying to follow regulations, because we run a legal landfill.
So, yeah, thank goodness. And I hope more people do than probably do. But I'm thinking, if I load up a truck bed or a trailer of trash, you're going to go through everything. You're going to check it out and make sure that everything I've got's legal. And is it all going to go into one spot? Or?
Okay. When we actually, if talking residential waste, when a resident or small commercial business pulls up on the scale house, the scale attendant, the first thing they're going to ask you is, what do you have? So that will depend on whether we charge or not, for one thing, but also the scale attendant can catch right away. Like if you say, I've got paint, then the scale attendant can say, is it dried? Is it free flowing, however they phrase it. And so first we're going to ask you, and I know this will come as a shock, but not everybody is completely honest. Yeah, I know.
Imagine.
I know, it's crazy. So we have the residents will unload inside of an enclosed building. So if it's raining or icy or snowing or anything, you're protected from the elements while you're unloading. Okay. And we have operators, licensed solid waste operators in there that are watching what people dispose of, and if they see something that's not supposed to be disposed of, then they can give it back to for proper disposal. And some of it is not being honest. Not everybody that doesn't tell us everything they have is not being dishonest. Sometimes they just don't know. They're
They
not
don't know.
educated.
Right.
Like tires, they don't know whole tires can't go into the landfill.
Right.
They may not even think about the liquid paint cannot go into the
Right.
landfill, or
Right.
lead acid batteries can't go in the landfill. We also pull out all the electronics and the metal that we can to send off to be recycled to save landfill airspace, because I told you about the cost.
Right, right. So you do some major recycling, recycling of larger things, even if it's not brought in as recycling.
Right, right. And now haulers, like the City of Jonesboro Sanitation Department and the roll-off boxes that are around town, those haulers, we were the first in Arkansas to have a 3-scale system where one of the scales is for the larger commercial haulers. And they pull up, and we actually have, we call it our blue box, and it's blue. We're very creative. And anyway, so they can just get their own ticket. They actually go up onto the landfill. And we keep the residents and small businesses separate from the haulers as a safety issue, so you don't ever have to worry about, being around the large trucks that might not see you.
Right. Angela, is there anything else you think people need to know? Anything else that you commonly have to tell people that they don't know?
Obviously, we're located on County Road 476 off of Highway 1 South. Our telephone number is 870-972-6353. We only accept solid waste from Craighead County. We're a single county district. We actually have 2 Facebook pages, Legacy Landfill and Kirby Recycling, Kurby. I encourage people to become our friend on Facebook, because if anything changes, we always post there, and if we're going to be closed. And one thing that people don't think about is natural disasters. If a tornado comes through, when we had the 2009 ice storm, people sometimes don't know what to do with the results of those disasters. And our website, which is at www.legacylandfill.org, and our Facebook pages would be updated.
All right. She's Angela Sparks. She's the Deputy Director of Legacy Landfill. And thank you for taking the time to be with us today on Let's Talk Jonesboro.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Good to see you.